Now to stunning new details on that raid to take down the leader of ISIS. Sources say a mole inside Baghdadi's safe house played a key role.
This morning, more news about an informant inside Baghdadi's inner circle. The Washington Post revealing the source gave crucial details, including the location and layout of the ISIS leader's safe house. An official telling the Post the mole had turned against the Islamic State after one of his relatives had been killed by the group. Now, Kurdish sources telling ABC the mole was present during the raid and critical to the successful US mission, even providing them with a pair of Baghdadi's underwear and a blood sample for DNA testing to prove it was him. According to the Post, the mole was exfiltrated from the region 2 days later with his family, and the individual is expected to receive some or all of the $25 million US bounty placed on Baghdadi.
The CEO of Boeing has conceded in a US Senate hearing that the company made mistakes with the computer system installed in its 737 MAX model. Amid confusion in the airline industry, Korea said it will speed up inspections on some of the faulty Boeing planes.
In a Senate hearing held Tuesday, Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg admitted that the company failed to give pilots more information about its new maneuvering characteristics augmentation system before the crashes. The system is linked to two deadly crashes of the Boeing 737 MAX model, the first one last October that resulted in 346 deaths. He also acknowledged that it took months to disclose a fault in the MCAS system, despite Muilenburg being notified about it before the second crash in March.
After more than 2 years in space, the Pentagon's X-37B spaceplane landed early Sunday morning at Cape Canaveral in Florida. It is a highly secretive autonomous spacecraft that resembles a miniature space shuttle. But what exactly it was doing in space still remains a secret.
Piloted X-37B touched down at NASA's Cape Canaveral and Kennedy Space Center at 3:51 a.m. Sunday after spending 780 days orbiting Earth, breaking its own record of 718 days in orbit back in 2017. The X-37B is part of the Air Force's Orbital Test Vehicle Program, or OTV program. It was the fifth flight mission of the X-37B, built by Boeing, and is at least two autonomous mini shuttles in the Air Force's fleet.
We're watching two major wildfires across California. In the north, a Kincaid fire so big it looks like this. This is 85 miles away in San Francisco. Meanwhile, in Southern California, they're bracing for those dangerous Santa Ana winds.
Hey, good morning, Robin. We actually just lost a light because the winds are starting to pick up here. And you can see those firefighters behind me. They're literally taking a last stand. Just over the past half hour, the winds have kicked up, and you can see it blowing those singed palm trees behind me. Now, the fear is that the wind is going to kick up embers and cast them perhaps miles downrange, taking them from destructed areas like this and starting new fires. Now, these red flag warnings are underway in 43 California counties this morning. That applies to 27 million people.
Overnight, that rare new video showing the spark which incinerated 12 homes, damaged 5 others in LA's pricey Brentwood neighborhood. Take another look. Officials claiming high winds carried a tree branch into a city power line, those sparks igniting the flames, fueling that fire.
Lebanese protesters are tonight celebrating the resignation of Prime Minister Saad Harari after weeks of often violent protests over decades of government corruption. CNN international correspondent Ben Wiedemann is in Beirut and he joins me now.
Well, yes, because their demands are much more fundamental simply than the resignation of this government. They want to see a complete change to the political system here, which since 1943 has been based upon a confessional division of power, whereby, for instance, the president is a Maronite Christian, the prime minister is a Sunni, and the speaker of parliament is Shia, and so on and so forth. What they would like is a government that is not divided according to sectarian lines. They want a massive crackdown on official corruption.
$1 billion will be pumped into ensuring the reliability of our electricity supply by the Morrison government. It will be spent on projects like battery storage and managed by an organisation the coalition once tried to scrap.
The Energy Minister is burning cash to keep the lights on.
It's $1 billion reliability funding.
The new fund will be administered by the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, which grew out of a Gillard-era deal with the Greens to secure her minority government, established with $10 billion to invest in clean power projects. The coalition was once steadfastly opposed to the corporation and the limits placed on the kinds of energy it could invest in.
Police sprayed protesters multiple times as tensions once again flared in the middle of Melbourne.
I feel brutalised.
It genuinely feels like my whole face is on fire.
A TV journalist also felt the pressure from police.
He's a journalist!
He had been asked twice to move and quite adamantly said no. It required us to physically remove him from a particular area.
Protesters have been trying to stop delegates attending an international mining conference at Melbourne's Convention Centre. Climate activists blocked roads, glued themselves to the ground and took to the rafters to make their point. But it was when police moved in to arrest the high-flying activists that tensions erupted.
It's almost midnight at Kigali airport, and it's the end of a long ordeal for these refugees and asylum seekers. For having attempted to cross the Mediterranean illegally, they were imprisoned, sometimes for years, in detention centres in Libya. Most of them aren't even 20 years old.
The group that arrived today are mostly from Eritrea, Somalia, Sudan and Ethiopia.
After the nightmare of Libya, they're welcomed by the United Nations and are transported to an emergency transit centre 1 hour from the Rwandan capital. They can then choose whether to return to their home country, go to a third country, or stay here in Rwanda. There are 189 residents living in the Gashora centre. Most of them are traumatised by the time they've spent in Libya.
Under the watchful eye of international observers, Ukrainian troops retreat from the front line. Following a deal reached with Russian-backed separatists, the rival forces are withdrawing from the key town of Zolot.
Both sides resumed the pullback of weapons and forces in Zolot and continued to negotiate the disengagement in Petrovsk. Both sides are literally stepping back, and today they've made a huge step forward.
After winning a landslide victory in April's election, Ukraine's new president, Vladimir Zelensky, has promised to make peace his priority. The de-escalation is part of the terms of a controversial peace deal, dubbed the Steinmeier Formula, agreed on October the 1st.